Moments often become cornerstones in our lives that leave indelible imprints of fresh possibility, faith, connection, and transformation. In special moments, we take real steps towards understanding, connection, and confidence. When moments are amplified with the wonder of surprise, their impact can empower us to break through fears and doubts and see our true possibilities. It's one of the least understood, yet most powerful tools you can use as a world-class buddy thanker. It's time to break through in your relationships, work, and life. Create surprise for the people who matter to you. When you create surprise, it is vitally important that you understand the real impact comes from when you ensure that it's their surprise, not yours. Surprise can be as simple as an unexpected handwritten card thanking someone you care about for just who they are. You can prepare a special dinner, offer to do something they love to do, and be sure to have tons of fun with them. Give your children ice cream for breakfast to honor their effort, energy, or kindness. See the fun and the impact that comes from unexpected, unsolicited energy of the surprise. Right now, Brian's going to tell us a story about a surprise he gave to his wife, Carol.
Perhaps the most underused and misunderstood and not known principle of incredible personal leadership is called the power of surprise. When you understand surprise, you can affect people more deeply than you can even imagine. I'll give you an example. Next Tuesday, you show up at work. All right, and as you show up at work, you notice that Sally next to you has received a personal letter. It's a handwritten note. Now, first thing is, it's handwritten. When you get anything handwritten these days, what do you think? Yeah, most of us think, wow, personal, they took some time, or, the system's down again. But basically, we think, wow, that's kind of surprising. So she opens up this letter, and it's a letter from your friend Jim, and it says, Sally, I just wanted you to know how much I love working with you. Your energy and spirit lifts everyone, even on the toughest days. You never seem to give up. You always look for the possibility instead of the limit. And I don't think enough people have told you the difference that you make. So I just wanted you to know, your friend Jim. Well, Sally will keep that letter more than any birthday card she ever got. Why? Because it's not her birthday. It's not her anniversary with the company. It's just Tuesday. It's just a happy heck of it. And the surprise was so surprising to her that she'll keep that card. And every time she looks at it, she'll want to aspire more to it. So it's a fun and simple little idea. But I want you to know it can go much further. In fact, the power of surprise is one of the ways, above all, that you can help a person see who they really are. And the story I want to tell you is about a person I love more than life itself. And that person is my wife, Carol. Now, my wife, Carol, is a brilliant, wonderful woman, but she's very different than I. In fact, if she was standing here trying to talk to you like I'm trying to talk to you right now, she would have passed out and thrown up 16 times. She is not a front of the room kind of person. She has always liked and preferred to be behind the scenes, quietly in the background. And though she is an incredible source of strength for so many, she sometimes doesn't see it. In fact, she often undervalues herself, as if to say, heck, if I can't be in the front of the room, I don't have what it takes. So for her 50th birthday, I wanted to use this idea of surprise to help her see once and for all what we all who love her see. So for her 50th birthday, which is in November, I started thinking, well, I want to do a surprise. And in January of that year, so about 11 months before her birthday, I'm flying to New York City. And on the way to New York City, I pull out the Delta Sky magazine and I'm looking through it. And all of a sudden, I see this article about the Lion King on Broadway. And I go, that's it. I'm going to surprise Carol and my daughters, Kelsey and Jenna. I'm going to surprise them. We're going to fly up here for her birthday weekend, go see the Lion King. They'll love it. That'll be so great. And I'm pumped up. I get to New York City. It is freezing cold, but that doesn't matter to me because I'm kind of an ooh guy. I got all this energy and I'm so excited about this surprise. And I go stand in line at the Lion King Theater to get the tickets for her weekend. And I'm telling you, there is a line. Even though it's freezing outside, I bet I stood in line for almost an hour. Finally, I get up to the counter, I go, and I'm beaming, I'm just filled with energy. I go, I need 4 tickets for the Lion King, the weekend of November 11th and 12th. I don't care what show, can be any show, but they gotta be 4 great tickets, up close, all together. All right, what you got? You know what the guy standing behind the counter did? He laughed at me. He looked at me, laughed at me. He says, are you kidding? He says, we don't have any tickets available till at least April of the next year. Well, I got a lot of energy and a lot of faith anyways. And I go, well, would you just check anyways? He goes, okay, and kind of taps into this computer. And he kind of does a double take. He looks back at me. He goes, you must be the luckiest guy in the world. He says, there must have just been a cancellation. I've got 4 fine seats for the Sunday matinee on Sunday, November the 12th, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 6th row. I said, thank you. And I looked up to God and said, thank you. I took those tickets. I'm high-fiving people as I'm leaving there. They're wondering what I'm smiling about. And then I started to fly home the next day. And as I'm flying home, I did something that is absolutely critical to really using the power of surprise. I actually thought about the person I was surprising instead of myself. And by the time I got home, the surprise had changed in a lot of ways. And so the next morning, my children had gone off to school. I accidentally, with quote marks around it, left the tickets out right on the counter where I knew Carol would run into it. And I'm pretending to look at the sports pages, waiting for her to find them. And you can't miss them because the envelope has this big picture of the Lion King on it with the words Lion King. And sure enough, she's kind of moving around things. She finds that letter. She goes, what's this? She opens it up. She sees these 4 tickets. She goes, Brian, what is this? And I go, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe it. I'm such a numbskull. This was going to be your birthday surprise. I was going to surprise you and the girls and fly us to New York City for your birthday to go see the Lion King. I can't believe it. I can never keep a surprise. And she's going, it's okay. It's okay. She's kind of patting on my back. I go, well, at least we can surprise the girls. And she goes, yeah, that'll be fun. But I could tell a little was out of it. See, I figured out that the only way I could keep a huge surprise from my wife was for her to think she already knew it. See, now she's my partner in crime. And over the next months, the kind of whole process kind of took place. Almost always when I was on the road. Finally, the big weekend comes. And that Friday afternoon, we're going to leave the next morning. We pack up the kids' bags. We put them in the van. They're totally oblivious because they're just kind of on, remote control doing their normal stuff. And they think they're going to go to dance practice Saturday morning because they have a recital the next week. But I tell them, hey, we have to swing by the airport on the way to the dance because my bag didn't make it in on Friday. And they're sort of used to that. And they're going, okay, fine. So the next morning, they walk right by the van. They don't even notice that the suitcases are in the back. They just get in the van, they're ready to go to dance practice. In fact, my oldest daughter, Kelsey, she's wearing these blue fluffy slippers that she wears to dance. So we swing by the airport. We got plenty of time. I jump out, go into the airport, kind of fake it for a minute. I come back out and I say, we can't get the bag yet. We have to wait like 15 minutes because a flight is coming in, and they can't get to the bag until they empty the bags from this flight. I said, why don't you come in, get a bite to eat, just go to the bathroom. We got plenty of time. They go, oh, okay, fine. So they come walking in. Meanwhile, I go back and stand in line. They walk right by me, oblivious. I kind of look out of the corner of my eye at Carol, and she's kind of trying to keep herself from laughing. I never knew this would be such a great part of the surprise. I kid you not, we were on the jetway, getting on the plane before my kids had any clue they were going anywhere. And Carol is absolutely cracking up. Well, we get on the flight. We're flying to New York City. I'm sitting on an aisle seat right next to Carol in the other aisle right across from me. And about halfway through the flight, I lean over and I say, honey, I was on the internet and I found the coolest thing. They have a deal in New York City that's called the Way Off Broadway Players. And it is the hottest thing. What it is, it's a group of entertainers, jugglers, magicians, singers, dancers. And they put on these incredible floor shows at 5-star New York City restaurants. And I got us tickets for tonight, the 4:30, the early show at the Bacaro Grill, a wonderful East Indian restaurant right in Midtown for the 4:30 show. She goes, ooh, that sounds really neat. Great. So we get to New York City. We go to our hotel, the Palace Hotel, really cool hotel right above St. Patrick's Cathedral. And we walk over to this Bacaro Grill. And as soon as we get there, right at 4:30, we are greeted by 2 of the Way Off Broadway players. And these people are wild. They have these huge masks on and these incredible hats and costumes, just wild-looking characters. They don't say anything to us. They simply escort us. They take they take Carol's arm, they take my children's arm, and they walk us through the main dining area up into this special room. And as we walk inside this room, the first thing we see is this long banquet table with like 25 chairs around it. And there beside it are the Way Off Broadway players. And I am telling you, they are crazy looking. They have these wild masks, these wild costumes. They're contorting, they're humming, they're doing all these weird kind of things. It's sort of surreal. And to tell you the truth, they weren't that good at it. And as I looked over at my family, I knew what my kids were thinking. They're thinking, what did Dad get us into this time? Like, oh boy. But Carol's kind of going along, but she's kind of not figuring it out, and they're not ever talking to us. They're just doing this weird stuff. And finally, they motion for us to go sit at the table. So we go sit at the table. Carol sits at the end. I sit right beside her. My daughter's right next to her. Well, all of these other way off Broadway players, they come and sit at the table with us. And Carol says something like, oh boy, they're going to eat with us, are they? Like, oh boy. Well, finally, a note makes its way around the table to Carol, and the note says, you may now ask one of the players to remove their mask. And then on and on and on. And it's like clicks in Carol's mind. Oh, I get it. This is how they set up the show. They get kind of your juices flowing. You feel kind of nervous and weird. And now the show is going to start. So she looks over and she points to one of the people who had escorted us in. You couldn't really tell whether it was a man or a woman. And the person takes off their hat, whips off their mask. Well, it's my wife's very best friend, whose name is Muff. Now, Muff is married to Zig. Now, Zig used to be married to Cookie, and Muff used to be married to Tick. Has nothing to do with the story. I just think that's kind of funny. Well, anyways, Muff takes off this mask, and when Carol sees that it's Muff, who lives in Alaska, her jaw drops. Her eyes just open wide. And it's like, you could not even feel any more joy. It's like, oh my gosh. Now, Muff is one of those people like you know. She's that person who is only up. I've never seen her get that emotional. She doesn't tear up at things. She doesn't cry at sad movies. She's just kind of upbeat and even-keeled. Well, when Muff takes off her mask and her hat and she looks at Carol, she bursts into tears. She walks across the circle with her arms out. She goes up to Carol. She wraps her arms around her. She looks at Carol. She says, Carol, you are the only person in my life who ever believed in my creativity. And it's because of you that I know I'm a creative person. Oh man, remember, I'm a guy who cries at openings of supermarkets. I am pouring. And it's just one of these incredible moments. But now Carol's waiting for the rest of the show. She figured, how neat that Muff came to my birthday, but let's get on with the show. Well, it wasn't until the 14th person took off their mask that Carol realized all 22 of them were her best friends and family from all over the country. I had flown all of her best friends and family into New York City. See, those frequent flyer miles from being a professional speaker, they come in handy sooner or later. But they didn't just come. See, when you ignite the power of surprise, you ignite another incredible power that starts with an S, which is called the power of synergy. See, they didn't just come to share a birthday. They came to create some magic. And every one of them came, when they came, they wrote her a handwritten letter that was very much telling her how she had touched their lives, specifically and personally. They brought with them a little ornament that would hang. See, they created a wreath. They took a wreath which they painted gold, and they glued that wreath to a mirror. And they each brought an ornament that would hang from that wreath that was symbolic about their special friendship. So one by one, these people that she loves more than life would come up in front of the room, stand beside her, embrace her, hold her, stand and read these words that they had written, things we don't hear about in our lifetime that we need to hear. And then they would hang this ornament. And picture this. So picture, I'm holding this wreath, looking at the woman I love with every ounce of my heart and soul, beaming brighter than she's ever beamed in her life. And as I look at her, right in my line of sight, who else do I see? I see my two daughters. And they're looking at their mom, maybe for the first time. They're looking at their mom thinking, my mom is the coolest person in the world. I got to tell you, as I stood there holding that wreath, looking at my wife and my children, it was the best day of my life. And I got to tell you, the Lion King was pretty cool too. But the very best part was, the next night as we flew home, my wife reached around my hand with both her hands. She looked at me with a look I had never seen in all our years of being married. And she said these words. She said, honey, my life will never be the same. She says, the next time I don't think I matter, I'm going to remember this weekend. I'm going to remember everything about it. It does not get any better than that. But here's the secret. See, this was my wife's surprise. See, my idea of a surprise, a great birthday surprise, would be for my wife and my two children and I to fly to Jamaica and sit on the beach. But my wife loves her friends and family. That's her greatest values. And by giving it to her, that's what made the difference. And here's the most wonderful of all parts. My wife has a hard time thinking about speaking in public, but that was 3 years ago. And today, my wife is the president of the school's parent council. She has to lead meetings and give speeches. She's joined Toastmasters to break through that fear and to rise up and feel more confident. She has become a certified NIA instructor. NIA is a form of exercise that combines dance and martial arts and aerobics, and she has to lead classes, and she is right close to becoming a licensed counselor in our church. See, the power of surprise is the power of transformation, and it's a triumph of transformation available to all of us. It doesn't have to be a huge deal, but when you use the power of surprise, you allow people to see their possibilities.